that era had already kind of ended by the time that those guys left. Like the glory days of No Jumper being this big network or whatever, like a lot of those views had already kind of disappeared because they were doing such a phoned in bullshit version of the podcast. So yeah, it's like now, like No Jumper, the standard by which we used to be held was basically just like, oh, they interview people and that's good enough. Now it's like we have to have multiple different live stream shows going every single night, and they all have to, like, you know, hit a certain kind of target. But I would say that, you know, right now we do have like a really great team of hosts going, and I'm not, there's like zero part of me that is like, oh, shit was so great when AD and T-Rel were delivering the most half-baked, boring fucking podcast episodes that anybody has ever seen in their life. Like, they could do the worst content imaginable on their own platform as they are currently doing. You know, it's like, for me, they left thinking that they had this shit all figured out, and we all got to witness that they absolutely did not. So I feel like Sleepy Joe is trying to, like, he's trying to capitalize on that, because you've seen him, like, he co-signed AD, brought him on the podcast. That did nothing for AD. Somebody like Academics, Ack wouldn't even know AD if it wasn't for me. But, you know, AD has gotten like every big cosign that you could possibly get in media, and yet.
Yeah, I think AD, I don't know why, there's just something that isn't clicking. Like, I don't want to take shots at AD, but it just, like, when he's solo, it seems like he defaults to whatever bigger personalities.
But the crazy thing is that in order to get the same view count that he used to get, he now needs a whole room full of people. But meanwhile, like, he's not a good mic, so it's like he'll forever kind of be boxed out of that conversation. And then the really crazy thing is that now they have a new podcast on FiggMunity, and they X AD out of that. So he's like the first person who's ever been kicked off a podcast on No Jumper, and then he starts his own media company, and they kick him off the podcast on there too. So like, they even, like, the other hosts on FiggMunity kind of realized, we can't keep potting with this guy.
Okay.
He's dead weight.
Okay. Well, I just wonder, where is this energy? Because I feel like you coming in hot with the FiggMunity, but is it because of their recent admission that they said they were trying to burn the house down?
I mean,
even though it was obvious that might have been.
That was kind of astonishing to me, because they're so bad at lying. They're so bad at, like, keeping their fake stories together. Like, I would think that if I was trying to pull the wool over everybody's eyes, that I would be a little bit more coherent in how I communicated about it. But no, I mean, this is the shit that I always say, because I just want, you know, I want the people at home to always remember that the peak of AD's career, both in terms of like lifetime earnings as well as, you know, attention in terms of making good clout or whatever, like, the best spot that he's ever been in his entire life was when he was at No Jumper, and it's just been nothing but downhill ever since then. And I just, like, I don't want that narrative to get lost in the sauce, because I think it's important for people to really, like, learn from his story. Like, AD's story is a teaching moment for young podcasters, that you don't need to try to burn the house down on the way out, especially if you don't have any talent. And then you definitely don't, like just the way he went about everything was the wrong way to do it. So I don't like to just let that shit be. I like to, like, consistently kind of remind people, you could be like AD if you don't appreciate the put on that you got from somebody else in the industry, you know?
So it's like a cautionary tale is what you're saying.
AD is a mega cautionary tale, yeah.
Okay. But I guess I'm trying to be, like, not too, I'm trying to see it from AD's point of view. Like, maybe AD
He knows
does
he fucked up.
What?
He knows he fucked up.
How do you? It's like, you know this already.
I've seen leaked text messages from him with other people. I shouldn't say leaked, because I'm the only person who's seen it. But, like, I've seen text messages from him, like, wholeheartedly acknowledging that he's down bad now and that leaving No Jumper was a mistake. So it's like, I wish I could share those to the world. I wish I could just, I guess I could just show you privately. But, like, generally speaking, I understand his mentality way more than he will let on camera.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess when you leave a platform, there's this initial, like, support where everybody's, like, happy that you left. And we saw Rory and Mal where everybody's like, oh, you left Joe, he's a terrible person. But then reality can set in. And it's like, you're saying don't burn the house down the way that they did, but how did they burn the house down? Was it just, like, say, throwing narratives out there about
they just made up a ton of fake narratives about all these different stupid reasons why they left. And it was just like, you know, there's such a thing as having like real grievances. I think Rory and Mal had real grievances.
Okay.
I don't think AD and T-Rail have, and that they did. They have had multiple conversations on camera where they attempted to like come up with some kind of coherent version of why they left, and it's just so obviously bullshit. It was some self-serving shit, and it's like, I think if you're somebody in the podcast world and somebody is cool enough to put you in a position, then when you leave, you should not intentionally go out of your way to craft a bunch of lies about that person. And I think that when you look at what they did, like that's what they did. And they deserve the 22 Sisters of Wrath for all of time for their behavior. And like they should expect me to be enjoying it as they fail. So it's like I'm narrating it publicly for the world. If I wasn't who I am, I would start a Danny from the Stop YouTube channel and, report on it on a daily basis. But instead, I have to just drop truth bombs on you in the first 10 minutes of the interview.
Oh, no, I love it. I love it because I was like doing this whole big three podcaster thing, but you took me in a different direction. And I think it is, I mean, it's like, I remember after they left, you were initially, I don't know if this was genuinely true to how you felt at the time. You kind of looked like you didn't want to go in too much. Like you was trying to be like more understanding, more reflective, more pensive. And now it's like, hey, let's rip the Band-Aid off. F these guys.
I mean, I think like I was kind of affected by the fact that so many of the fans were bamboozled. And like so many of those fans have kind of like left comments and reached out to me and let me know that like, hey, I can't believe that we actually thought that these guys were next up. And yeah, I don't know. That shit got to me for a while where I was like, oh my God. Like, I don't know. For a while, I started to actually believe that I was the problem.
Okay.
And now I realize that that is absolutely not the truth and that they, in fact, were the problem and that they, in fact, made the bad decisions and stuff. I mean, the only real thing that you could give me in terms of like what I did wrong was just that I didn't nurture the egos of them as much as I possibly should have. I thought that they would just like long-term understand that like how much I had done for them and that they wouldn't do the exact kind of thing that they did. And I was let down to see that, but
All right. On the bright side though, I kind of see what you say about AD maybe not being a good creator. But T-Rail I think is dope, even though I know you too.
He's falling off rapidly because it's all word salad, like when you see him next to somebody who actually knows how to podcast, like I remember seeing a bunch of clips from when Van Lathan went on their podcast.
He's great. Yeah.
Bro. Like it was brutal.
Yeah.
It was like a alien civilization just being met by like a superior being. And it was just so like in that moment, I was just like, oh bro, like you are not cut out for this. Like this is like that Van Lathan thing more than anything else just really convinced me like, oh shit, like you are ass. Like you are not going anywhere. And I feel like in a way he kind of almost gets that now.
What? No, I mean, I can see like I know when Rory went to the FiggMunity guys, I was like very taken aback by how little research they seem to have done.
Oh yeah, but that's their whole thing. I don't think T-Rail has the capability to like sit and study someone and look them up and like every interview I do is like a couple hours on the internet researching them. I think he's like way too self-absorbed to do that. I mean, like even Smack is too self-absorbed to learn the name of the person that they're interviewing.
Okay.
Like he recently interviewed somebody that I interviewed. And like while my interview was obviously superior, Smack couldn't remember his name like 5 different times in the interview from like, everybody's posting this shit in the Reddit. So, I mean, it's T-Rail more than anybody who's ever podcasted needed the propping up of something like No Jumper,
What does the propping up of No Jumper mean? What does that look like? Like, what do you do to put these people in successful positions?
I think you like put somebody like them in the arena with somebody who really knows how to podcast. If you allow me to kind of like guide you through that process, that's going to like really cover up a lot of the flaws that are now incredibly obvious to their fan base. And then on top of that too, it's just like bringing in this built-in audience. But like, again, these dudes have been propped up since No Jumper by academics and Joe Budden.
Yeah.
Kind of hard to think of like a bigger cosign.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't do anything for them because ultimately the product is not good enough to bring anybody in.
Yeah, I do feel like I know when Joe started talking to me on Twitter Spaces and Joe started talking about me on the podcast, I kind of got fearful because I felt like being under the radar is where you really can work. But then when people draw that, you think the cosign is going to be big enough. But yeah, no, I understand what you mean. It seemed like there was a very coordinated attempt to prop up both of them after that whole breakup.